audience, member of the jury, and member of opposite team, greeting to you all. Today, we have the honor to stand here on the stage during the finals of Eagle's great debate to define the subject behind me. Culture is a living fabric of ideas, traditions, and identity that forms the soul of people and their identity. It's the language of the heart, it's the art of the spirit, as well it's the history of our ancestors. It shows us the beauty of human diversity, and it creates and make more easy discussion between people to more understand them across time and space. Just like a tree gets its food and power from the deep roots in the earth, humans and people as well get their food and get their power from their culture and origins. The deeper those roots are, the more strong this tree will be facing storm and winds. Similarly, the more our nations are stuck to their culture, the more they will be strong and stable. We want culture of people to be different, not just copies of each other. We need that each culture be special and unique so that we can all collaborate together to create a better world. However, nowadays we are hearing talking about a kind of globalization that want to make everyone follow one identity, let's say one culture, which is the most mainly Western culture, without preserving any of those old values and principles that older cultures spend years and years to develop. They want to delete everything related to history. And here I'm going on to the UNESCO definitions for culture. Culture is a fundamental part of the human being, not even able to be denied. Moreover, cultural heritage is the most both tangible and intangible. Must legacy be preserved for next generations. So we have to preserve our culture, we have to preserve our origins and identity, but it doesn't mean to isolate ourselves or being closed-minded. No, we can be openness, a very positive openness to the whole world, sharing ideas, sharing perspectives, sharing knowledge, but with keeping respect to each culture and its uniqueness. A Moroccan proverb said, "The crow wanted to imitate the cawing of the dove, but it lost its own and the doves." Here, we want to say that when we give up our own identity and try to go one new one, we feel empty. We forget our origins, who we are, our food, our clothes, and everything. And we do not fully join the new way we choose. Like that, we become lost in this whole world, keeping asking ourselves, who are we? What makes us distinguished in this life? Keeping with rapid change and progress, with forgetting our origins and culture, will for sure lead us to destruction, as there is no future without past. To conclude, dear audience, I would say that preserving my cultural essence, in principle, values a timeless presence, holding their tradition and heritage, a tapestry of identity, a living message. In me resides the symphony of a culture melody, a melody of uniqueness, and a vibrant tapestry. Thank you.
Dear Prime Minister, when you say you want each culture to be unique, you're automatically saying you don't want them to follow the past and thereby follow the inherited traditions and rituals, right? Change. Change is growth. After all, what is a society that remains stagnant? Change is adaptation. After all, where would we be without the adaptability of our generations? Change is progress. After all, what fate awaits a country that fails to pursue progress? Respected Assembly, honorable judges, Government House, greetings. Questions have been raised, minds have been sparked, and now it's time for my House and I to guide you through this debate. Allow me therefore to provide you with a foretaste of what is to come from my members. The Deputy Leader of Opposition will address the success of countries who followed the path of change. Next, the Member of Opposition will shed light on the downside of some of our own traditions and rituals. And ultimately, the Opposition Whip will talk about the impact such practices have on people's mentality. In today's rapidly changing world, where globalization and technological advancements have surfaced, it has become crystal clear that embracing the current of change is not only advisable, but essential for progress. The pace of change is relentless, and those who resist or lag behind risk being overtaken in the wake of development and innovation. In fact, traditions and rituals that have lost their meanings in our times are one of the many, if not the primary obstacle to progress, as they held relevance solely under specific circumstances, for a distinct time frame, and for a purpose. They are the representation of a linear time, of a history where the past is thought of as behind us and always disappearing in a new present. Therefore, they no longer serve our needs as a culture. According to Inc., the whole idea of a tradition causes us to turn our brains off. It's the easy, lazy thing to do. Just blindly follow the past so you don't have to do the hard work of critical thinking in the present. But while developed countries do respect the past, they win by adapting to the present. They win by architecting for their future. They bring curiosity, open-mindedness, and love to challenge the status quo. They constantly ask why, what if, and why not. Many rituals were also established in times when societal norms were markedly different from today. Some may reinforce inequalities or exclusion, perpetuating discrimination based on gender, race, or social status, while others have environmental impacts that are no longer justifiable in the face of our current ecological crisis. Let us not forget about those practices that involve harmful activities such as Bujulud Festival or the Gnawa Trend ceremonies that raise concerns regarding physical and psychological well-being. According to Pew Research Center, amongst 19 advanced economies, most say their country will be better off embracing changes over sticking to traditions. A median of 62% of adults, including Europeans, people in the Asia-Pacific region, and 63% in the United States are especially likely to see value in being open to changes. That in itself says it all. Ladies and gentlemen, change is not something to be feared. It's something to be embraced with open arms. Change is the engine of progress, the catalyst for innovation, and the spark that ignites the flames of possibility. Without change, we stagnate, we become stuck in the past, we become prisoners of our own history, unable to adapt to the moving landscape of the world around us. And as the ex-Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Benjamin Disraeli, once said, in a progressive country, change is constant. Change is inevitable. Thank you.
Dear audience, dear opposite team, before I get to start, I would love to also answer the leader of opposition because they seem to talk too much about change and they basically claimed that we're actually resisting the change, but what they're actually missing is that we're not resisting the change, but actually we're advocating for a very balanced society where we get to modernize our life, but also never be willing to let go of our culture and traditions. Dear audience, dear opposite team, esteemed judges, welcome. Today I stand before you to discuss this very interesting topic that you may have already heard before because it's something we see every day, something we live through every day, something that has always been around us since day one, and most importantly, something that defines us and makes us belong to somewhere. And indeed, I am talking about our dear and very, very dear culture that is sadly starting to vanish, to fade away and to fly by time. And I don't even gotta prove that. What used to make us real Moroccans is barely present today, but then again, who are we to judge? Maybe it's for our own good. maybe this time, let those rulers and controllers of the world's economy dominate this poor, developing country as well. Perhaps they'd make of it a better state. A state with no epic culture, no identity, and absolutely no name. Is this what you want to hear? Because I'm telling you, this is what's happening. Now let us consider the evidence, and let us go back just a little bit and take a look at the recent Moroccan internet virals. What is it in there? Blind dating. Interesting. So now you're telling me all this messed up generation needs to do is to start uploading blind dating videos as well. What an improvement, isn't it? And you know, this got me thinking, since when all of this has ever even started? Since when these stupid, trivial ideas have found their way into our deeply rooted culture? And I'm telling you, this only happened when they've got us convinced that there's no other way for advancement and development unless we started imitating them. And you know what's the worst part about this? Is that this whole social media thing is not even the only way they've used in order to creep into our lives under the name of modernization, as the other team is claiming for it to be. No. Want a proof? Take a look around. Anywhere you want. What are we wearing? Literally. A bunch of meaningless, stupid brands that none of them actually reflects or shows who we truly are. Check out the Middle Easterns, for example, with their white dresses and everything. Whether they are in their own countries or not, you can always tell their true authentic identity. And yet, that has never prevented them, nor their countries, from being developed, you know? Now, what are we eating? Well, that's a more surprising one because back in the days, March 2020, when suddenly everything changed and the COVID-19 appeared, only then when we started really questioning ourselves, what were we eating? Okay, I guess it's finished. Thank you very much. Okay, that's period time is over. Okay. That was very awkward. Do I continue? I think I just have to conclude at this point. In conclusion, I think our message is more than clear. If there's ever something wrong with the traditions, then simply I think it should be fixed. And at the end of the day, all we're asking for is a name so that tomorrow we get to say that we are proudly Moroccans. Thank you.
Dear Deputy Prime Minister, what is modernization according to you if it's not change? And as you're saying, you're not against change and development. We as well do not want to deny our culture. We want to adapt them into today's progress standards. Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible, said for example. There are two ways to deal with change: react to it or participate in it. At the end of the day, everything changes. We are changing. The world is constantly changing. So how can we resist the current of change? How can we not seek progress when everyone around us is? Why stick only to our cultural heritage if the world demands adaptations to pursue evolution? Ladies and gentlemen, the pages of history are filled with the stories of countries that dare to embrace change. Take China as an example. Traditionally, according to a LinkedIn article, Confucianism, which is an ancient belief system, emphasized hierarchical social structures and conservative economic practices. However, the modern Chinese society has reinterpreted these values to emphasize education, hard work, and community loyalty, supporting rapid industrialization and economic growth. The blending of Confucian work ethics with capitalist practices helped China become a global economic powerhouse. Moving on to the land of the rising sun, Japan. As we look closely at its culture, we see big changes happening, like using virtual reality in tea ceremonies to make it easier for everyone to learn and enjoy this old custom. Also using computer intelligence and digital art with old Japanese traditions like kabuki shows and ikebana flower arrangements. For instance, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the famous Awa Odori Festival was streamed online, featuring performances and allowing viewers to participate from home using advanced augmented reality technologies. Opponents, do you really believe that without these changes, people would still have the chance to enjoy such a sacred festival? Moreover, would Japan have maintained its leadership in the technology industry? Also, konbini are important stores in Japanese cities and are part of its tradition. They sell fresh food and everyday items. And guess what? Those stores conform to the current change and the trend too. Today, konbini offers a snapshot of current food trends and limited edition snacks tied to the pop culture phenomena, all according to the website ejable.com. Now, on the flip side of history, there are countries that chose to be limited to their cultural heritage and not consider change. Taking the example of Yemen, according to a study conducted by CARE and GenCap, Yemen's conflicts such as the Houthi rebellion and the involvement of regional powers like Saudi Arabia and Iran are getting more and more complex because traditional mechanisms are not equipped enough to address them, which explains the whole instability situation in Yemen. Studies have also associated African culture as the impediment for development, according to Digital Commons. As Daniel Etunga Manguel highlighted in one of his articles, Africans do not plan their future, and he related that to their sorcery and witchcraft traditions. See, opponents, we are so not against our cultural heritage. Let us be courageous in our pursuit of advancement to embrace the opportunities of tomorrow. Thank you.
So, first of all, dear Prime Minister, you talked about risky festivals like Tborida. I mean, you know that, for example, in Spain, they have that Taurus battle, and it's the same thing. It's risky, but it's professionals who do those kind of things. Anyway, so, dear audience, honorable juries, and fellow opposition team, may you have one of the greatest mornings. So, as we all know, our dear country has been preserving its cultural heritage for generations, a heritage full of beautiful clothes, savory food, significant celebrations, as well as amazing words of wisdom, making us Moroccans recognized and admired worldwide. But unfortunately, many of these traditions are fading away. While modernization brings valuable advancements, the way we integrate these changes has sometimes led to a decline in our cultural heritage, all because of some people who believe that our culture stops us from progressing. But don't worry, my duty today is to prove them wrong, because our culture is actually part of progress. Let's not go too far. Here is a shining example, like the United Arab Emirates, a really advanced and affluent country. Even though they are economically and technologically advanced, their people still wear traditional clothes and still stick to their customs. Women still wear abaya and men still wear ganduras, even casually or professionally. This is a really valid example to show that progress does not necessitate abandoning our culture, nevertheless. So, by preserving our culture, we are not rejecting modernization. We are ensuring that it does not come at the cost of losing what makes us uniquely Moroccans. Our culture defines us as a country. So, dear audience, our position is not against modernization. We are ensuring that it does not come at the cost of losing what makes us uniquely Moroccans. True progress means integrating modernization while preserving our heritage. You know what? Progress is about improving education, healthcare system, improving infrastructure, and stopping corruption. And you there, dear opponents, accusing our culture of being the main burden to our progress? No. People should understand that a society's advancement is not only measured by economic and technological achievements, but also by its commitment to maintaining their heritage. Okay, for example, you know how many planes arrive in a day to Morocco, full of tourists from all around the world, tourists excited to explore our culture, excited to see our old Medinas and try our food and buy our clothes and handicrafts. Lots of tourists. Do you think that they come to see our modern lives? I mean, they already have that in their countries. And you know how much income comes from tourism? Tourism has achieved in 2023 105 billion dirhams, according to statistica.com. And tourism's income represents 12% of the Moroccan gross domestic product. What have you got to say about this? Culture actually plays a role in progress. Another thing, Morocco is not an industrial country, so tourism sector is a really main and crucial sector to us. So to conclude, dear audience, if Morocco wants to progress, we have to stick to authenticity and preserve our identity and not follow and change as other countries, because the beauty of the world lies in the diversity of its people. Thank you.
Member of opposition, if you were listening just a bit and paying attention, you would have heard that the leader of opposition didn't mention Tborida. I think it's clear. Thank you. If we strive for a well-developed nation, we have to change some of our beliefs first, as they take part of our traditions that we inherited blindly from the past, and which will be transferred to our future generations. That is why the change has to start from us first. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take the example of our country. It is indeed one with a rich cultural heritage. However, an important part of it is known to be harmful and dangerous. Actually, some of them are harsh, cruel, and out of logic. Taking the example of black magic, also known as witchcraft. According to Ghazis, these beliefs have increasingly been instrumentalized for political purposes. They serve the politicians good and develop their own power to stay in rule as much as they want. Isn't it a bit contradictory, or more as senseless? How can a politician opt for these illogical practices? Even these well-educated people get involved in such ridiculous acts. Shocking, isn't it? That's one of many reasons as to why progress can be one unachievable goal, and that also has a big hand on the non-development of our country. Our King Mohammed VI is standing in our position as well by accentuating it. According to yabiladi.com, the Economic, Social, Environmental Council, ESEC, set up by King Mohammed VI in 2011, has stressed the need to eliminate girls' forced marriage, which has been included in Morocco's tradition, due to its detrimental negative impact on girls' future and the country's overall development. The ESEC, while examining the Families Code, highlighted the significant negative impact on girls' economic and social standing, and that also has a big hand on the non-development of our country. Those girls have dreams to follow, have dreams to achieve. If marriage would stop them, then what traditions are you defending and trying to defend? Opponents. Here is Rabha Al-Haymar, a 2024 IWOC awardee who was given the prize by the First Lady of America in the White House. Rabha is a courageous Moroccan woman who successfully navigated the legal system and fought to obtain the recognition of her traditional marriage to spare her daughter a life of undocumented child. We can clearly agree that Rabha has demonstrated leadership in advocating gender equity, that the rituals you are opting for, opponents deprived her from. Dear audience in Government House, let me remind you that my house and I are really proud to be part of our amazing cultural heritage. But if we want to pursue the progress, it is a must to review our traditions. That is the only way to see a better version of us. Thank you.
In our fast-changing world, the debate between preserving cultural heritage and embracing the future, it has become more relevant than ever. The question here is, should we stick to our traditions and keep our identity, or should we change? So this discussion will help us explore the balance between these two. Anyways, dear leader of opposition, deputy LO opposition, and member of opposition, change. Change, what a beautiful word of 6 words, of 6 letters. But everything has a starting point. See, change is like a building without a base. Without a base, your change will turn into failure. Now, see, your past builds your today, and today builds your tomorrow. Dear audience, members of the opposite team and members of the jury, in Morocco, this debate is very important and very common, as Morocco has a rich history with a mix of barbarian, Arab, and European influence. Now, let's consider traditions that we can save, like the member of opposition said. We actually have celebrating Eid al-Fitr, making beautiful pottery and textiles, making tea, which is the number 1 tea in the whole world, extraordinary weddings, gatherings for storytelling, and more. Now, as the country modernizes and searches for more modernity, people are discussing how they can keep these traditions alive while also adapting to the new world. See, now this debate is about how we look to Morocco, where he can honor his past while also moving forward. Many people today in Morocco are aiming to keep with the modern world, forgetting about their traditions. Let's consider that Eid of sacrifice is so close, yet we don't feel the vibes like we used to do years before. As a matter of fact, our society, depending on our traditions, we used to share excitements of events weeks in advance. But now, I came to the conclusion, now realize that the more we search for advancements, the more we search for improvements and modernity, the more we lose our sparks and vibes. Now, I'm not saying Morocco should definitely stop thinking about growing and solely focus on traditions. No, don't get me wrong. I'm saying that Morocco should focus on traditions and with it, he can grow. And he can grow. As Fatima Al-Hayari once said, she is a local historian once said, our cultural heritage in Morocco is not just a thing, it's not a thing of a past, but it's a living, breathing part of our own identity. Now, unlike some countries, Morocco has a rich culture and history. And due to its racial mix, people who are barbarians, Arab, African, or even Jewish have all contributed to the masterpiece called Moroccan history. Now, to keep our identity, ladies and gentlemen, are aspects we ought to save. Dive to modernity with our culture while being brave. That's what we mean by paying respects to it, not by a wave. Thank you.
First of all, dear opposing team, you talked about social media, yet you criticize modernization and change. Don't you think that You're contradicting yourself because I think so. And you talked about identity. You know that today what defines a country is its economy, power, education, and technological achievement. And also you talked about tourism. Well, you wouldn't want tourists to come to a country that's still living in the past and practicing senseless rituals. A nation is not defined by its borders. A nation is defined by diverse people who committed to a vision for the type of society they wish to live in. What we need now is the nation of great, wise, and educated people to grow. He says these few but strong words, opponent, were said by someone who's been fighting for his country's development for years. Fela Duratoy, a leader in the Gemstone Leadership Network. He says, opponents, that what every country needs now is a nation of great, wise, and educated people to grow. So the fact that most of our cultural heritage is, a complete nonsense does not help. And as of the many examples my House members presented, let me share with you another thing we inherited that is, yes, taken. Please hurry up. We don't have enough time. It's not working. Okay. As I was saying, one thing that we inherited that is no good, and that's mindset and mentality. And yes, before you come at me, opponent, mindset and mentality are an important part of our cultural heritage. You know, and oh wait, a question popped into my mind right now. Dear audience, I want your opinion. How would you see a country whose people still believe in men's superiority, who still have faith on dead people, who still believe in senseless rituals, who still believe that looking for a bright future is deadly dangerous, who still believe that saying where they are and how they are is the most peaceful option, yet they want to pursue progress and achieve success? How do you find this, dear audience, contradictory, absurd, funny? Please, I invite you to raise your hand if you think so. Well, opponents, welcome to your own country. Did you know, dear audience, that according to ResearchGate.com, it has been realized over time that citizens' old mindset and their attachment to senseless beliefs and traditions are some of the key national constraints to any country's development. Yes, and the growth of any nation's economic and social situation could only be possible if its citizens play their roles smartly and diligently. Okay, forget it. To clarify more, dear audience, let's take the example of a kid who's got precious toys since childhood, and when he's leaving to join school, he refused to get away from them. So instead of not going to school and sticking to his toys, he took them with him to class, made a presentation on how important they are to him, and now he's every day excited to go to school and talk about them. The moral opponent is, instead of preserving our cultural heritage through old mindset and irrational practices, we could always do this all along with riding the development train, thanks to museums, thanks to archives, thanks to live documentaries, institutions, organizations, and communities. All of these help preserve our cultural heritage all along with conforming to the current of change. And please, dear audience, keep in mind that this debate does not change a droplet of love we have for our identity and culture, but believe me, it's for our country's best to review it all wisely. Thank you.
Well, black magic and child marriage are not a part of our own culture. Those are social problems which exist in many different countries, even the most developed one. So as I said before, there is no future without past, which means that we cannot leave our roots and origins and keep development progress. That's literally impossible. However, if we see our traditions, our origins as a base in which we grow up, development, knowledge in our own way, trust me, dear audience and opposite team, success and excellence will be the fruit of this rooted tree. Thank you so much.
I can understand if you're unfamiliar with the concept of progress, Government House, given the lack of progress in your arguments throughout this debate. But it's not too hard to realize that your stance is already quite unsound. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say it again. My house and I are the first to proudly and loudly declare that we are Moroccans. We take great pride in who we are, but we're also the first to wish the best for our country, striving for its progress and potential. And if you felt the same, dear opponents, you would have done likewise. But at the end of the day, Frederick Nietzsche wasn't wrong at all when he said there are two types of people in the world: those who want to know and those who want to believe. So my advice for you, dear audience, is to not be from the latter. Instead, be from those who seek change when needed, those who want to know, unafraid to abandon traditions if it meant progress for the country, and those who dare to venture into uncharted territory. Thank you.
Dear audience, dear opposite team, as the member of opposition was clearly accusing our culture of black magic, sorcery, and kids marrying at the young age, well, I'm here down to tell you that those are never actually our culture, but these are faults of society. However, dear audience, dear opposite team, esteemed judges, this would be my very last intervention during this whole journey of debating. And for that, I would love to actually take responsibility and gather the voices of all my team. And unlike others, we're not trying to trick anyone or convince them into thinking that by imitating other developed countries, we're actually making of ours a better one. No, we're here to state facts. Facts like that in the economy world, the most successful product is the one with the most unique and the most distinguished touch, which is exactly the case of our very, very special culture. And only if we could change that mindset and get to spend more energy and more money on flourishing that uniqueness and making it better, instead of becoming slaves to this new worldwide system. Thank you.
Culture and development are two words which have not always gone together. So unless you want our country to miss the development train, we have to review some traditions and rituals that are of no use or are even a break to our country's development. We have to look to the bright side and chase changes which include emerging technologies, inventions, science, and power, because after all, that's what defines a nation in this day and age. We're definitely not saying that we have to deny our identity, but more like adapt it and modernize it to fit in today's progress standards and follow the development trail, because sometimes going against the flow doesn't help you advance or make you any different than those who have no clue about what's going on around them. Let's be courageous, lovely audience, and with a wise and straightforward perspective, we can defeat obstacles and tell the world that we exist. Thank you.
Dear Deputy Leader of Opposition, we didn't say that we are against progress or whatever. I mean, progress is about economic and technological advancements, I agree, but also about preserving our culture. I mean, we should balance between the two. Now, what you state is that we only should focus on progress, but what about culture? I said already that the beauty of the world lies in the diversity of its people. Each country should preserve its culture. Another thing, Government Whip, you talked about child marriage and black magic as part of our culture. Those are failures in governance and policy and are not a product of culture. We should distinguish between them, and you seem to mix those. Whatever. Dear audience, let us honor our past as we build our future, recognizing that modernization and cultural preservation can coexist harmoniously. Our heritage should be a source of inspiration, guiding us towards a future where progress and culture coexist. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's no wonder if our country is still considered a southern one, or still moving in a very low speed. But do you know why? It's because some of us are still attached to their so-called traditions and rituals. But the truth is, things will not get any better if we continue to apply the same remedies to our illness. Stupidity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Einstein knew this a long time ago. So why not try to learn from our past mistakes, like when friends took advantage of our stupidity because we were so attached to our traditions that we didn't even know how to fight them back. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. It's time to wake up from a coma our opponents are putting us into. If we want to progress, we have to move on, because the past is in the past. Thank you.
Dear Opposition Whip, all people can be identified by economy, but not everyone can be identified as Moroccans. See, the concept of progress is built on your tradition. That's why every progress is unique. Now, dear audience, do you feel excited when you hear Eid of Sacrifices in 3 weeks? For those who said no, I add that UNESCO World Heritage Sites are a major draw for international tourists. Morocco boasts 9 such sites, attracting hundreds of thousands of tourists annually. This indicates the global value placed on Morocco's inherited culture. There is a 12.37 million tourists, according to Statista.com. This is for those who said no to cultural heritage. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're not embracing your traditions today, start embracing it tomorrow and watch your progress going up instead of down.
Social problems. Do you know, how do you explain opponents the Mshish event to marry a group of young girls, and black magic followed the news and you know what's going on? Dear audience, today's debate is at its last station, so unlock your bells and get ready to leave. But leave with the right idea and the right mindset. All you've been talking about, opponents, is identity. And you know, if anyone hears what you've been saying throughout this debate, they would definitely think that without those outdated traditions, we're nothing. However, we as a nation have a lot to present and showcase. We, in this present, need to find the link between the past and the future in a wise and smart way, and not through sticking to traditions, unless you want us to be like those anonymous tribes who use the forest as their shelter, who eat each other's meat and dress with leaves. Dear audience, let's be honest. To survive in today's world, it's no more about tradition or heritage. It's about education. It's about economy. It's about advancing rate and control. So we have to learn to let go.